There we are. And now you can take it away, Renee.
Great, thank you. Hi, how's everyone doing? I hope really well. I have totally enjoyed this experience today, and I'm so grateful to Andy and Margaret for the opportunity to speak with you here. And so without further ado, and much thanks, Andy, for that lovely intro, I will share my screen with you here. All right, aggressive ethics in UX, a how-to, why-to guide. Okay, so I just came up with this because it felt really important to me. So a little bit about me. Andy told you a little bit. I'm Rene Otto. I go by the pronouns she, her. I'm a UX consultant currently with a sweet spot in the 0 to 1 space of innovation and strategy. I'm currently working for Safran Aerospace on their R&D innovation team, and I absolutely love my team. I feel really honored to work with them. And so within my current role in my personal life, I consider myself, as Andy shared with you, an ethical tech vigilante. All right, so you might ask, why vigilante? Okay, so we know that a vigilante is a member of a self-appointed group of citizens who undertake law enforcement in their community without legal authority, typically because the legal agencies are thought to be inadequate. Okay, so for me, I'm a member of a self-appointed group of one. And instead of undertaking law enforcement, I take on ethical personal enforcement because typically for me, the existing tech agencies aren't adequate. So I just had to get very intense and personal about it. So why am I here? Why am I here speaking to you about aggressive ethics? Well, essentially, I love people. And like most parents, I particularly love my kids. So when my son Jackson was only 10 years old, he wanted to kill himself. So that's a shot at him at 10 years old. So I spent 9 months of that year making sure that this did not happen, and mostly trying to figure out why. Why would this child want to kill himself? Oops, sorry about that. So Jackson's a fairly ordinary, sweet kid, and I'd like to show you this video of him before he was suicidal. He was answering my question one night at home. I said, Jackson, why do you talk to me so much at the dinner table? And I thought his response was funny, and I'm hoping it'll give you a sense of who he is.
If I grow up and while I'm single, or if I'm for my whole life single, I won't have anyone to talk to at the table. So I need to get it all out now.
So yeah, that's my kid. And so I showed you this video so that you could see what I would have lost had I not taken a deep dive into understanding what plagued him enough to want to die. And so it turns out that he was addicted to video games. And whenever we asked him to give up his devices to do other things, he would have tantrums and fits. And the addiction he was experiencing made him feel like nothing else mattered, and that if he couldn't have them all the time, he wanted to die. And so I learned in this process that some screen experiences, like some video games, are intentionally designed to be addictive. And because obviously this increases the bottom line in a profits not people first type of company, this was alarming for me. So I decided at that point that I would make it my life's work to be certain that the products, services, and companies that I contributed to were not knowingly or intentionally causing harm, but instead we're elevating people, helping people grow, and we're therefore, in my mind, humane. So I got sort of like immersed in this paradigm of what is humane tech. So what does humane mean? And we know this, but I like to hear additional language. So humane things are having or showing compassion and inflicting the minimum of pain. And also things that are intended to have a civilizing or refining effect on people. So that made me feel healthy and good. And so, yeah, that's how I kind of got on that path. And so this experience forced me to have a moment of clarity with who I was as a mother and human being. And so today, as Andy stated, I consider myself a wisdom wonk, a meaningful life advocate, and an ethical tech enthusiast. So what does that look like? Okay, so wisdom, and I love that some other folks touched on this today. We start out with reality as this disorganized and messy place. Then data abstractly measures it. We move up. Once we contextualize that data, we have information. Knowledge is, of course, organizing that information. And then if we can apply that knowledge, we have wisdom. And I would argue, as any good lawyer would, that applied knowledge, we really still need humans to do that. And no matter how smartly we write algorithms, there's still somebody writing it, right? Like what, so there's always going to be a spot for the human within this pyramid of going from reality to wisdom. And so that's kind of where I'm at today. And instead of just, I have ethical tech enthusiast as one of my monikers, but vigilante in this close group where I feel safe, I can tell you it's more like vigilante for me. And so some definitions here. Values, principles, and ethics. People often use these interchangeably, and so I had to sort of like detangle them. So values are internal. They are a part of our internal system that guides our behavior. They're subjective, personal, emotional, and arguable. So this also means they change and we get to choose them. Principles are external. So in other words, they're objective, factual, impersonal, self-evident, and indisputable because they're external. They're sort of like the lived experience of the values. And then ethics is how these two things connect. So ethics refers to the moral correctness of conduct. And so once I was able to sort of understand those differences, it's like, okay, now I can seek to apply those. So why to be aggressively ethical? Okay, so why are ethics important? I think we're all clear on that. But why is aggressively ethical, UX in particular, important? Because if you're like some folks, because I can't believe that too many people knowingly cause harm and go to and sleep well at night, right? I think that if you're not clear and intentional, and in fact intense about your ethics, you could end up doing work that doesn't facilitate the greater good of humanity, unwittingly, unknowingly, and unintentionally. Because like if you watch films like The Social Dilemma, you know, people get into big tech with wonderful intentions. I don't think anybody wakes up and says, I'm just gonna wreck people, you know? But you know, things can shift and evolve. And so you have to put a concerted effort and a true intentionality behind it, or you could just slip into unethical things. And I feel that anything can be justified and we can always find data to support whatever we want to rationalize. But you know in your heart of hearts when you're doing the right things, if you just ask yourself and take inventory. And I don't know that I was doing that enough previous to my son's episode into flirting with death. And it caused a spark in me. And so that for me is why it's important and why I wanted to share this with you. So why are we here? I should share with you the assumptions I have about you. I feel this is a safe place. The 118 registrants were all UX practitioners of some sort, I would think. And so for me, that feels like a safe place to share. And I love that, you know, we have this organization and that we can all be here and resonate in these topics. I know this is like, you know, preaching Catholicism to the Pope. A lot of times, you know, this is like an echo chamber, but it feels lovely for me to have like-minded souls that resonate on these same topics. Because, you know, it's really important. And this unifies us. So I feel like I'm in great company here today. And my own knowledge has expanded tremendously as a result of all the wonderful speakers. So ethics are personal and based in self-awareness. And we get to decide, right? I mean, what may feel ethical in one context may be different in another, and it may wax and wane for you throughout your life. But it's just important to understand that we get to individually choose what's ethical and what is good and meaningful. All right, so enough of me talking. If you don't mind, we're going to do, if you'd like to join, an activity to determine our what personally impacts us. So if you would, get out paper and pencil, my favorite tools, or otherwise, if you're fully digital, break out an empty you know, doc or notes app or whatever your tool of choice is. And here's what I'd like you to do, and I'll do it with you. So write down the top 3 most impactful events of your life in the past 18 months. Okay, so this could be anything, but like personal to you, like life events. Okay, these could be internal or external events. could be like the pandemic in general, or a medical condition, or a death or illness of a loved one, a move, a job promotion, a job loss, a new appreciation for doing your fitness regimen at home, new appreciations, what have you, like, but the most like impactful for you personal thing of the things of the last 18 months. So take a minute and write those down. And then after you have that, next to each event, write down the personal core value that was affected by each event. Okay, so here's a list. This list, I love this list. This was provided to me by my friends Lucy and Whitney of Workwell. If you're not familiar with their work, they're awesome. Their URL is right there, weworkwell.io. And they do lots of work around meaningful life and meaningful work as well. But this is just an example. Like, so if the word that you're thinking isn't in this list, clearly just, add it, but put the core value next to each of those life events that is impacted. So this will help you understand sort of like the things that touch you deeply in terms of events. Okay, I don't know if that's enough time. If anyone needs more time, could you throw it into the chat and let me know? Otherwise, I'll move on. Because I think, this is a way to apply a lot of what we've learned here today, because it all begins with and emanates with us, right? Okay, now, now we're going to do a second activity where similarly, you're going to write down the 3 most significant products, services, or experiences you are affecting in your UX practice today. So, perhaps you're a leader, a manager, and so it's going to be your team, right? Or you work in products, or you work in services, or you create an experience, or however you want in your mind to define your work, right? Like, so think of the projects you're working, like the actual things you're doing, and then write them down. And then next to each item, write down the end user's core value that each creation affects. Okay, so again, here's that list. Because so think of the actual value that gets touched by the things that you're doing, right? So, for me, I can think of, at Saffron, I am working on a dashboard project, for example, and what that enables. And then I'm speaking with you now. So that's an opportunity for sharing and growth and education, but, why do I do it and how does that affect you? And so you should have 2 lists. And maybe I'll give you another minute just to think about that, because maybe you're just like, well, I only work on this one thing. Or maybe you're a consultant and you're like, I work on 30 things, I can't even narrow it down. But think of the 3 that are kind of top of mind for you, like what you're doing day to day that has you immersed. And then add that core value to it for the end user, like what gets affected, which value gets affected. And then my hope was that you could look at these 2 lists. So then like circle the 6 values, right? So you have the 3 values that were affected by you, on a personal level by the events. And then you get the 3 opportunities to affect a value for end users with your work. And so there's no right answer here. And I've never experimented with this before. And I'm just really curious, what did you find? Did you find similarities, differences? What relationship exists between these lists? And if you would please, in the chat, share. I would love, if you're comfortable, to hear what sorts of values you found in each arena. And if there's a relationship, or maybe there's no relationship, or it doesn't even matter. I didn't come with an answer, but I'd love to see what folks think. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course I can go back. There we go. Perfect, water break. So I did this 3 times in the last week with different friends, and I have to say they changed each time. Because yeah, we get to reinvent ourselves daily to some extent. And what Matt, I mean, they were all related. That's what was interesting, but like it's depending on what was top of mind for me. I came up with different examples. So yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay, so Margaret, for me, thoughtfulness and humility appeared in both lists. Nice, very nice. So you saw a relationship there. Super cool. Kaya, personal resolved around family and love. UX revolved around teamwork, vision, and excellence. Nice. Very cool. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if there will necessarily be relationships, or maybe, maybe we manage one area by dealing with different aspects in the other area. But I just think it's important to stop and consider no overlap. Okay. But is there a relationship, right? Like, not necessarily the same, but do you see that, like, you use your personal life, Kathleen, for one thing, and your work experience is something else? And do you wish there was more connection, or are you happy they're separate? Yeah, and I'm not saying, I dealt with a lot of grief this last year, a lot of loss, and just moving through grief, and that effect, that felt personally like love, like loss of love. And it's not like in my work I'm regaining love or anything, but I think for me to solve for trust, that takes my mind off the grief. So, that's not an overlap either, but it's a sort of symbiotic relationship whereby I can, maybe that's not the right word, but like, they're complementary in the sense of one, can inform the other, but yeah, it's just interesting. Self-actualization on both lists, Amy says. Very cool. Yeah, how lovely is that? I'd love to know, Amy, what type of work you do that involves self-actualization for your users. That's excellent. Inspiring. Not on your list of core values, but this came up in both of my lists. Communication. Awesome. Yeah, how can we not, right? Yeah, that's the synergy when that's going on. Katie, my personal values are aligned with the work I am doing. Excellent. Katie's my friend, and I know this about you. And that's why I so highly regard you, because you live on every level, all of that. And that's so inspiring to me. So thank you. Thank you for being you. Super cool. Flexibility and boldness. In my personal list, inclusivity and dependability, my work list. I notice I try to give others what I feel I am missing through my work. Interesting. Yeah. How lovely to do that. Give others what you're missing. Be the change you wish to see, right? So that's beautiful, Hannah. We could all learn from that and grow from that for sure. Daryl, I think mine is more a theme than overlap. Oh, it's a theme. Lovely. Security, compassion, happiness, and consistency. Community, efficiency, and understanding. Nice. Doesn't it feel good to define it, like to give language to why what we do matters and who we are? Like for me, I'd like, I feel more significant. Like I'm doing this because, and just in my head, right? Like, yell it from the street corner, but like, it gives you like a defined sense of purpose. And that for me feels good because these are lovely qualities, whether it's in a product or a person or a relationship or your style, like that's just awesome. Complementary, but not identical. I project what I want to receive. Yeah, awesome, Liz. So thank you. We could go on and on, but yeah, and if you didn't want to share, that's cool too. But yeah, I just hope it just gets you thinking, because I love to ask this question with some amount of regularity. So I have my North Star, right? My guiding light of who I want to be and how I want to be in the world. So thank you all for that. I enjoyed that. Yeah, super cool. So am I expressing my personal values in the things I create? So, you know, we are, or we're not for certain reasons, or, but if at least we can see it, we can unveil it within ourselves, then we can have a more keen understanding of ourselves, and that just feels important. Okay, so the how-to guide, the how-to part of our show. All right, so how to be aggressively ethical in UX. And I meant to make a slide that lined this out, because this kind of feels like the heart of the matter. So forgive my not having done that. But I think to be aggressively ethical in UX, you have to continually ask yourself these questions. Am I personally causing no harm to myself or others? Is this meaningful work? And am I doing this for the right reasons? And it's personal, you know, and it changes, and that's all fine, but like, you gotta ask. And I think our panelists did such a great job of giving all these different examples of having to ask and doing the asking, right? And I mean, a half-solved, a well-stated question is a half-solved problem, right? So let's just keep asking the right questions. And I love this echo chamber that we sit in as UX practitioners, because it feels really good, because it feels important, right, for everybody, because everybody benefits, as Carissa so aptly stated, as well as everyone else. I mean, I think we all resonate in that space. So how might I become even more ethical? And my thunder's been stolen twice, so it's all right when you go last. But so as a recap, it's intentions, right? Intend, like get really focused and intend to be ethical, to care about values, to care about your principles, and you can get there. And it's always a thing. Now, aggressively ethical. Okay, so why does she use that word that's just so, you know, intense, and is that really needed? And there's lots of definitions of aggressive, and some are ugly. But the only ones I apply in the way that I'm using the word here is meaning to pursue one's aims and interests forcefully. Like not the way that you're hurting people, it's quite the opposite, but just the true intentionality. And I just like to think of it as aggressive. And my husband once called one of my best friends aggressively nice. He's aggressively nice. You know, he's a guy, he's always paying for dinner, and he's like bringing you gifts no matter if you ask, you're like, oh no, he's like, no, take it. You know, and my husband, he's aggressively nice. And I was like, and I love that, right? And I want to be aggressively ethical. So how might we, right? Like, so how might we, you know, pursue our intentions forcefully? So aggressive is not all bad, right? It's vigorous, energetic, dynamic, bold, audacious, and in your face and feisty. All right. Who doesn't mind that, as long as it's coming from a place of love? Obviously you don't want, you know, violence, but if somebody's just like aggressively nice or aggressively ethical, what are you going to do? So I love that. I love that word. I like to, you know, sort of recontextualize words, as long as I provide the framework. Okay, so how do we do this? It's hard to do things in a silo, right? So who might encourage me to become more ethical? Who, right? My friend Katie's on this call. I begged her. I was like, Katie, please come for moral support. I have more friends in the group, and thank you all for being my friends. But like, you know, we need these people, and I refer to them as my circle of angels, or the champions of my spirit. And Leo Babuda, he does Zen Habits. I don't know if any of you are familiar with his work, but just today, he stated in his blog writing that find the people who fan your flames. I love that. So who are these people, right? Because it's hard to do alone. Maybe they're your coworkers. Maybe they're your significant other, your children, your best friends. Like, but enlist them, right? Be like, all right, we're all gonna be ethical together. Or, you know, that's goofy, but just like, you know, there's more power in doing it together. And that's why I love that we're here. But again, like, who can you bring in? Like, once you leave this meeting, I hope you come to Finnegan's. But if this is the end of the day for you, then who else can you bring in? So think about it. Who could you be like, yeah, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. So live life like you mean it. Live life like you mean it. Because I mean it. And we should all mean it, right? You don't want to just like forget about meaning it. And again, preaching to the choir. So, but you know, just remember, it's important. And how might I live and work more ethically? Through defined values. Okay, so become our lived principles, and don't do it inadvertently, like do it intentionally. So I would love for all of you who are within driving distance or walking or biking distance to join us at Finnegan's. Okay, so that's going to be at 6 p.m. today, just enough time to do whatever in the middle. And it will literally be a happy hour because all of us will be there, right? And yeah, I'm looking forward to just being able to hug somebody. I am vaccinated, signed up for the booster, will wear a mask anyway. Yeah, so I understand some folks aren't comfortable, and I understand that's totally your choice. But for those of you who really benefit from in-person, I'm one of those people. I would love for you to join us. And then I will bait you with the next activity. What did I say about this? Okay, so I'm gonna guide you. So you get to see me here in video, and then it'll be like this physical grandiose moment whereby we will have a tactile version. Okay, so I'll guide you through a workshop following this Zoom event in 2 hours. So whoever wants to join us, it'll be a fun, hands-on, meet and greet values profiling exercise. She'll only take like 20 to 30 minutes maybe. And it's a great way to get to know yourself, much in the way this did, but it'll be a little deeper. And you'll get to know someone new. And I love to meet new friends. And so it's a first step in learning how to be aggressively ethical. So I hope you can join us. It's from 6 to 9 p.m. Again, if you don't want to do my goofy workshop, you can just sit and hang, no pressure. But if you'd like, to be live and in person, we would all welcome that opportunity to get to know you in the flesh. So that would be really welcomed. So it's free. Thank you all for your time and attention. And yeah, I'd love to see you all there. So thank you all for this opportunity, and thank you all for being, thank you for being, because yeah, I think we're making the world better together. So thank you.
Thank you, Renee. What did I tell y'all?
Fun.
Left you with some energy, right? That's a great way to wrap up. Really appreciate you, Renee, bringing that all to us. I hope that inspires some folks to come and join us. I'm going to share my screen one more time. The last time, something's gone wrong with my PowerPoint, and it's not showing a slide view anymore, but you can see this.
There we go. It's all good. All good.
So we've got just a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, I'm just going to stop recording real quick.